In this video, we're showing a few different pairs of our discus fish that have spontaneously bred in community tanks. These discus are in 180-gallon aquarium community tanks planted with many other fish, as you'll see in these videos. However, they seem to be happy with their water parameters and environment, and we had many pairs that have bred over the time we've had them. Discus are a cichlid and a freshwater fish, but are as vibrant and beautiful as many of the saltwater fish. They do have very specialized needs for their water and their environment, which we will go through. But if their needs are met, their immune system stays pretty strong and they can be very healthy. With any poor water parameters, their immune system will plummet, and then we tend to see a series of different diseases that can affect these fish. Here you can see that the orange female has laid eggs on a relatively flat stick. They like flat surfaces. I've listed several of the more common diseases that we tend to see in discus for your information. But again, the importance here is water quality is everything. If your water quality and temperatures are good, the fish will be healthier. Here's a different pair of discus that have laid on a more vertical branch. They tend to like vertical or flat surfaces. The female will lay the eggs, the male will follow behind her and fertilize them, and the eggs will be monitored and protected by the parents until they hatch into wigglers. They actually will blow water pretty much constantly over the eggs, increasing water circulation and preventing fungal infection. Here you could see the brighter male kind of posturing in front of the female. They do have courtship behaviors and will protect the females to some extent. However, they're nowhere near as aggressive as your typical cichlids. On this vertical branch, you can see just little fuzzy projections by the female, and these are the eggs that have hatched into a wiggler stage. The parents will often move the wigglers around to different surfaces. I've had one orange female that likes to place them under leaves. It's relatively easy to sex discus. The females have a more narrow, flatter forehead, and the males, have a more bulbous forehead. It's thicker with more of a bump to it. When you see them together, it's pretty obvious. When you have juveniles, it can be very difficult to sex them. Here the orange female has moved her babies, or the wigglers, which were still attached to a branch, to under a leaf. They often, in my experience, will move the wigglers around quite a bit once they start to hatch until they find the perfect place for them. The wigglers will stay stuck to whatever surface the parents put them on for a few days before they start free swimming. Once they start to free swim, they're attracted to the shape and color of the parents, and they will feed off the slime coat. So these babies essentially nurse. So they eat the slime coat on the parents for roughly a week until they're actually eating on their own. During that time, the parents do somewhat protect them, but nowhere near as aggressively as most cichlids. So the community tank is definitely not a good idea if your intention is to breed discus. For breeding discus, I would recommend a relatively simple tank, not a lot of other surfaces that will attract the babies to it once they're free swimming, and using sponge filters so the babies or fry don't get sucked up into the filter is important. We actually had several sponge filters on our 180-gallon, and the parents seemed to actually keep them away from the larger filters, so we had very little loss with those, and I think we were fortunate with that. In general, I wouldn't recommend the bigger filters. We have Fluval's under tank filters on these 180 gallons. Here's another pair of cichlids watching over their wigglers, waiting for them to become free swimming. This is a fun and exciting process to watch, as most of us just don't expect fish to be such good parents and so aware of their babies and attentive to them. You can see the male in front of the camera and the female here. They often will posture in front of other fish or the human watching over the tank to try to protect the female and the babies. And they do raise the babies together. They're wonderful parents. You'll see a lot of particulate matter in the aquarium as we've reduced vacuuming and tank maintenance while the fry were developing, but again, the water parameters were sound. In this video, we're showing some close-up of the wigglers. They're about a day or two away from the free swimming stage here. You can still see a big yellow belly full of yolk, so they don't feed at this stage. There's no feeding until they're free swimming on their own. And now we've reached the free swimming stage. These little tiny babies will follow their parents around. And again, they eat off the slime coat, so they swarm or surround their parents, follow them wherever they go. However, you can see they don't swarm them very tightly, so there are a lot of risks in a community tank. They will be attracted to large dark surfaces, so other surfaces in the tank sometimes will attract them. So a simple tank for an actual breeding setup is much better in the long haul for maximum survival. But we were very successful and very fortunate with many breeding pairs of discus because I feel they were just in a good environment with good water quality, lower stressors, and when you have fish that are overall healthy, you'll often see breeding pairs forming. Enjoy these lovely fish, but know their needs and monitor your water quality and parameters very carefully to keep them healthy and productive.